Israel begins its 144th day of the genocidal operation against Gaza, killing dozens of Palestinians along the Strip. In Argentina, Tierra del Fuego province announced the suspension of gas and oil production as a way to protest Milei's fund cuts that have affected all provinces throughout the country. And an investigation has confirmed that the United States has been selling rice to Haiti with high levels of arsenic and cadmium. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos, and from the Telesur studios in Havana, Cuba, we begin with the news. An Israeli delegation arrived in Qatar on Tuesday to begin talks with the Palestinian resistance on the hostage swap deal. The event coincides with the U.S. government announcement of a possible ceasefire next week. Earlier this month, the Palestinian resistance met for 3 days in Egypt to discuss the release of Palestinians held in Israeli jails. Although there has been no official statement from either side, there is some speculation about the possible release of 400 Palestinians in exchange for 40 Israelis. On the other hand, also on Monday, Washington confirmed that it is working on a draft of a temporary ceasefire to be considered by the Security Council. And in this context, Israel begins the 144th day of the genocidal operation against Gaza, killing dozens of Palestinians along the Strip. New attacks brought the death toll to 29,782. More than 80% of these victims are women and children. The Israeli aviation, artillery, and even the Navy have launched a series of attacks against the cities of Rafah and Khan Yunis. In this last city, the incursion was also confronted by the Palestinian resistance. In the southern neighborhoods of Gaza, especially in Al-Darash and Al-Sabra, dozens of civilians were killed and wounded by Zionist artillerymen. According to Gaza medical sources, the number of wounded has risen to 70,782, while the few active hospitals are losing capacity due to the ongoing siege. In the Netherlands, the International Court of Justice concluded its public proceedings in regard to the legal consequences of Israel's policies and practices in the occupied Palestinian territories, including Jerusalem. The 6-day-long sessions have now concluded and the court retreated for deliberation. There is no certain time limit to prepare the pronouncement, with some experts expecting it before the end of this year. In Monday's hearing, Zambia and Fiji resembled earlier arguments of the United States and United Kingdom, calling the court to decline providing the opinion. For their part, Turkey, Spain, and the Maldives condemned Israel's occupation and demanded the end to the impunity the country enjoys before the International Court. The organizations like League of Arab States, Organization of Islamic Cooperation, and the African Union coincided that Israel must end the last oppressive expansionist apartheid settler colonial occupation, the last one standing in the 21st century. Likewise, the representatives assured that Israel must dismantle the discriminatory regime. Palestinians only want justice, equality, dignity, and their long-deserved independence, they concluded. Human Rights Watch said on Monday that the Israeli government has failed to comply with at least one measure in the legally binding order from the International Court of Justice in South Africa's genocide case. On January 26, the International Court of Justice ordered Israel to take immediate and effective measures to enable the provision of urgently needed basic services and humanitarian aid to Gaza and to report back on its compliance within a month. However, 30 days afterwards, Israel continues to obstruct the provision of basic services and the entry and distribution of fuel and life-saving aid in Gaza. According to the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, fewer trucks have entered Gaza and fewer aid missions have been permitted to reach the northern part of the region in the several weeks since the ruling compared to the weeks preceding it. Also in Palestine, the Jordanian Army carried out the largest aid landing operation on the Gaza Coast. The Jordanian Army revealed through an official statement that the operation involved 4 C-130 planes, one of which belonged to the French armed forces, and that the aid included relief items and foodstuff. The army stressed that the operation was mainly aimed at delivering aid directly to the population. The Jordanian army has so far carried out 16 airdrops, with previous landing earmarked for the Jordanian field hospital and one for about 800 people trapped inside San Foritius Church in the same town neighborhood east of Gaza City. The army stated that it would continue to send aid through the Al Arish International Airport in Egypt. The Israeli Defense Forces reported on Monday that Israeli army fighter jets attacked sites used by Hezbollah's Air Defense Corps in Lebanon's Bekaa Valley. The offensive took place near the city of Baalbek in the northeast of the Arab country, almost 100 kilometers from the border between the two nations. Moreover, according to local media, these are the most intense Israeli attacks inside Lebanese territory since the beginning of the Israeli-Hamas conflict in the Gaza Strip. The bombardment took place in 2 moments, the first by a missile that hit a food warehouse, while the second one hit a house. The Israeli army warned that it would continue its operations on Lebanese territory. In the meantime, the Lebanese resistance shot down an Israeli drone as part of its solidarity operations with the Palestinian people. Through a statement, Hezbollah reported that it had intercepted the Hermes 450 drone with a surface-to-air missile in the Iqlim al-Tufa region in the south of the nation. The resistance also stressed that the organization's fighters remain on alert so that the Tel Aviv's army aggression do not advance further. Hezbollah also confirmed an attack on Israeli forces located in the vicinity of the al-Baghdadi siege. Now let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at Teleser English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back from the south. The governor of the Argentinian province of Tierra del Fuego has declared that the province would paralyze oil and gas output for 24 hours as an act of protest against the cut of funds that President Javier Milei did on the jurisdiction. The 5 governors of the Patagonian region held a meeting after the decision from the Milei administration to withhold the transference of around $15 million in federal taxes revenue that the Chubut province had to receive. The Chubut governor, Ignacio Torres, affirmed in a statement co-signed by 5 other provincial governors that the provinces existed before the nation and deserve respect, and that nobody could subjugate them nor extort them by threatening to restrict public funds that belong to them by right. In this same context, also in Argentina, the governor of the province of Buenos Aires, Axel Kicillof, announced that he would appeal to the Supreme Court to recover the local fiscal strengthening fund that was eliminated by the government of Javier Milei. The Buenos Aires governor announced that he would ask the Supreme Court of Justice to demand the Milei's government the return of the fiscal strengthening fund, which the central administration recently took away from his district, saying that these were not resources of a governor or a government, but of the people. On the other hand, Kicillof anticipated that he would be holding dialogues with the mayors of different political parties of the province in order to give a firm answer, since the decision that the necessity and urgency decree could not continue to be enforced. At the same time, he considered it necessary that the governors of the country reach a consensus to stop the neoliberal measures adopted by the President Milei. In other news, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro denounced the media campaign launched by the U.S. government and the press against Venezuelan migrants. During his televised program with Maduro More, the president demanded the lifting of the U.S. coercive measures to put an end to the migratory problem. The head of state called on Venezuelans abroad to return and join in the construction of the country's future. He also recalled that as a result of the U.S. sanctions, the country lost 99% of its income, which triggered a crisis in the South American nation. Also in Venezuela, the consultation, debate, and action of the so-called 7 transformations concluded with multiple observations and proposals from the People's Power. The debate that began on January 18th counted with the participation of more than 60,000 community assemblies in the design of recovery and prosperity policies for the year 2030. The closing ceremony in the state of Miranda was attended by the Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, who emphasized that the dialogue set the route for the recovery of Venezuela. Rodriguez highlighted the importance of advancing towards the nation's technological, scientific, cultural, and economic independence. She also reiterated that Venezuela would never again be dominated by any imperial power and is now on its way to becoming a member of the BRICS bloc.
There are the BRICS, Venezuela's on the road with the BRICS, who are in the vanguard of the transformation and change towards a different world, towards a world that respects international law. And above all, Venezuela will never submit to any imperial power. It is marked in our history. We inherited from Bolivar, from our heroes, from our heroines, to never submit ourselves to any power.
For his part, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro took to social network X to highlight the advances made on the discussion over the 7 great transformations for the country. In his tweet, the president said that the bases had met, debated, had carried out consultations, and also established an action plan to move forward towards the 2030 goalpost, convinced of their commitment towards the new generations and in efforts to guarantee them a greater and prosperous land. The president ended by stating that for this he counted on all citizens to transform Venezuela. In Peru, 20 regions out of 24 forming the country have been declared in a state of emergency due to the increase in cases of dengue fever in more than 100% over the last few weeks. The fast rise of the epidemic has been fed by the unusual heat wave and the absence of winter over the past year. The government of Dina Boluarte decided to declare a state of emergency in all the regions affected by the disease, which has so far reported more than 17,000 confirmed cases. The Minister of Health, Cesar Vázquez, revealed that so far 32 people have died of the disease and 8 more cases are still under investigation. Among the regions that would be declared in emergency are some in imminent danger of being overtaken by the number of cases that are occurring in these territories. On Monday in the United States, the University of Michigan published a report in which it exposes that U.S. food suppliers have been sending rice to Haiti with harmful levels of arsenic and cadmium. In this sense, the U.S. University Scientific Program highlighted that the rice that the Caribbean nation imports exceeds the international limits of concentrations of these metals, and the study amplifies that this issue increases the risk of suffering cancer and coronary diseases. It is worth noting that the rice represents for this Caribbean nation most of its basic diet, and precisely an agreement managed by the administration of the former president, Bill Clinton, allows selling the rice with lower tariffs. In this way, the report added that almost all of the samples analyzed exceeded the recommendations of the United States Food and Drugs Administration for children's consumption. In Cuba, President Miguel DiazCanel received Nikolai Patrushev, Secretary of the Russian Security Council, at the Palace of the Revolution in Havana to discuss fundamental issues of binational cooperation. The head of state assured that the secretary arrived on the island at a good moment. Accompanied by members of the political bureau, he received the Slav delegation in the second high-level visit from Moscow in less than a week. Pateev, who had also met previously with Raúl Castro, president of the Cuban Council of State, highlighted the strategic levels of the agreement in all sectors. Cuban President DiazCanel ratified the consolidation of these ties. The head of state also celebrated that charter and regular flights between the two countries have been expanding, in addition to the fact that Russian tourism is the one that has the highest growth in 2023 in Cuba. Russia is currently the third largest emitter of tourists to the island. And we stay in Cuba, where international sales of Cuban cigars, the island nation's most emblematic export, soared 31% last year as global demand rises for luxury products, the country's main tobacco exporter representative said on Monday. According to Jorge Pérez Martel, commercial vice president of Buenos S.A., the increase represented a turnover of $721 million in the year 2023. For his part, José María López Ichaurbe, the company's vice president in charge of development, assured that with the end of the pandemic, the luxury market in general and the consumption of premier cigars in particular has seen very strong growth in demand in all regions. He said that the development of high-end specialized products and limited and exclusive editions were among the main drivers of this growth.
This year is really a record year for the festival. It is a record year because in 2023 we reached a record revenue figure of 721 million, which represents a 31% growth compared to 2022.
Production has already started to rise slightly, not in terms of value, but in terms of units, because in terms of value it has risen a lot. It has already started to rise, and we're not able to meet the demand because demand has been multiplying.
And now we have a final short break coming up, but before, we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and also share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with Telesur. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the South. The Hungarian parliament voted to ratify Sweden's NATO membership, ending more than 18 months of delays that have frustrated the alliance as it seeks to expand in response to Russia's special military operation in Ukraine. Monday's vote, passed by 188 deputies in favor and 6 against, ended months of wrangling among Hungary's allies to convince its government to lift its blockade on Sweden's membership. Prime Minister Viktor Orbán's government submitted protocols to approve Sweden's NATO membership in July of the year 2022, but the issue had stalled in parliament because of opposition from ruling party lawmakers. Unanimous support from all NATO members is required to admit new countries, and Hungary is the last of the alliance's 31 members to give its backing, as Turkey ratified the bid last month. The Burundi government accused on Monday the country's main rebel group of attacking a Bervit family and killing 9 people, including a soldier. The attack took place late on Sunday in the western region of Buringa, just north of the economic capital of Bujumbura, at the border with the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where the Red Tabara rebel group has rear bases. The Burundi government said that the rebels also ransacked an office of the ruling CNDD-FDD party and accused Rwanda of backing the rebels. The Red Tabara group is the most active of all rebel outfits in Burundi and is estimated to have between 500 and 800 fighters. The group claimed the attack on X and said its forces had killed 6 soldiers, destroyed the CNDD-FDD office, and seized arms and ammunition.
They fired bullets as they entered the courtyard, and we ran in through this door. There were a lot of us. We were fighting to get in, and I was lucky to get in first. They followed us with bullets. I could only see bullets behind us.
Now we move on to other topics. In Brazil, high Amazon water levels leave more than 11,000 people displaced from their homes in the state of Acre on the border with Colombia. According to regional authorities, approximately 11,200 people had to leave their homes in the northern state due to the overflowing of the Acre River, which exceeded 14 meters in height. Almost 6,000 people have lost their homes due to the rising water. The city of Jordão in the interior of the state is reportedly the most affected by natural event, with 80% of floods taking place in urban areas. And we stay in Brazil, where expert studies on critical transition in the Amazon forest system estimate that almost half of it could disappear by the year 2050. According to the published materials, the potential alterations depend on 5 factors, caused directly or indirectly by climate change. And it was also stated that deforestation and degradation levels have so far exceeded the 10% safety thresholds. As for the reduction of precipitation, it was established that it is not possible to exceed the deficit of 450 millimeters annually in dry season periods. Scientists explained that as the largest continuous tropical forest on the planet, what happens in the Amazon has and will have repercussions on a global scale due to its role as a climate regulator. Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and also TikTok. For Telesur English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.